back to Second and Short and our Fantasy Dynasty rendition podcast here called The Cheap Seat. So like when you guys are way far away up in those cheap seats and you guys can't see everything on the field, we're going to be here to bring you guys some clarity. We're going to help you guys out. And I am your host, Tyler Lauder, joined with my co-host, our Dynasty Fantasy expert, Jason.
Hey, how's it going, man? Glad to be back. What is this, like our fourth episode?
Yeah, 4 episodes strong, man. Consistency.
Yeah, I mean, we've done a lot of great episodes thus far, and tackling one of my favorite topics is Dynasty, and a little insight on our topic today is those people that have rookie fever. Yeah,
exactly. So we're going to start out with the fantasy segment that we start off with, our NFL segment, pretty much where we go fantasy or dynasty, but it's all about dynasty clarity today. So the news this week, training camp happens, and out indefinitely is Carson Wentz. Ankle injury, probably going to have surgery, but it looks like he's not going to miss the start of the season, potentially. Who knows? What are your first thoughts on this? Just give us your bubble. What do you know?
Well, maybe you're even a different report than I am, because I'm seeing that it's a micro foot fracture that will have him out up to 11 months. But right now he is choosing to do the rest and wait technique and try to avoid surgery. It's hoping it's not as bad as it is, but this is a very big hit for the Colts team, who was going to be challenging with a nice veteran quarterback with Wentz coming over. Now they're kind of got to scramble to see who's going to be leading that team this year.
Yeah, and we got second-year quarterback Jacob Eason, who's taking first-team reps in this situation. They went and signed Brett Hundley. From where was he at? He was at last year. I don't know. He was like Arizona or something like that. Former Packers, great quarterback. But they're in a situation where let's give both scenarios. Let's go to the fork in the road. You go left, this happens. Go right, this happens. I'm going to take the road where he's not out, he plays. We're not going to panic here. But if you own Carson Wentz in a Superflex, if you own Carson Wentz in a 16-team one quarterback, you need to go out and you need to get Eason. You need to get Huntley. You need to get every quarterback that is on that Colts roster. Go out and get the best free agent quarterback that hasn't been signed to a team yet. Maybe go and get some backup, like, I don't know, Garner Minshew, who probably won't get traded there, but just get anything. Because if Wentz's injury doesn't heal quickly, then you need to find a way to move on and recover. Now, for you, Jason, you went right. He gets the surgery. He's out 11 months. What do?
You panic. That's the easiest thing to do. You panic. You start looking on those teams that need some help, that maybe you have some value at. You can start sending out some filler trade offers. You're going to be at a disadvantage. So you will overpay for anybody that you make a trade for. But yeah, definitely be working your waiver wire. Be working your league mates. That's the best option. Try to sweet talk your people up. It's all about the hype in any scenario, because if you got Wentz as your starting QB1 right now, it's time to panic.
Yeah, and you're going to have to hit up those guys that are currently in a rebuild, that had a strong rookie draft, in your dynasty leagues, and they've got that vet just sitting there. They got like a Derek Carr, they got a Kirk Cousins, who we're going to talk about in a little bit. They got a Daniel Jones that they don't trust in, and you got to maybe trade a rookie pick as well. But yeah, either get all those waiver wire, all those backups to be prepared just in case, or panic, as Jason says. And now, some more clarity. I want to kind of give some more clarity on this. Let's kind of keep in training camp, but away from just the Colts. But let's navigate through training camp. There's so many times where, like, I'm scrolling through TikTok, I'm scrolling through Twitter and Facebook, and it's like, oh man, this guy's making big plays to this guy, and everybody's awesome. Yeah, exactly. Everybody is awesome in training camp. But where do you, Jason, when you're paying attention to these training camp news and notes, do you say this is good information and this is misleading information?
I take everything as misleading information. I mean, it's the beat writer's job to hype teams up. That's why they're there. That's why they're beat writers. That's why they have the press passes, the sideline access, is to report on how spectacular, like, just a example I'm going to throw in here is the other day, it was nothing but, oh, Trevor Lawrence rolled out and threw a beautiful pass to Tebow, and like you couldn't go anywhere without seeing it. It was like, okay, yeah, but let's take that into real consideration. You look at the clip, everybody's going about half speed. It was just pretty much a practice, making sure that Tebow's getting the routes down, make sure Lawrence is getting the movement, his foot movement in. It wasn't a full thing. There was no defense. You got to take this as a grain of salt. And training camp is the funnest thing. Like you made a comment earlier when we was talking off air. It's just like pre-draft hype. You're going to have people hyped up. You're going to have things hyped up, blown out of proportion, just because we're dying to get any football news.
Uh-huh. No, you're right. And that's the situation. I agree. Almost all information is misleading now. There are certain things that we need to lead into and really think that this is a positivity. Like Zach Wilson, Elijah Moore, get drafted, same year. Everybody's saying they're probably going to have a good connection. But we see in training camp, they do have a good connection. And I think rookie quarterbacks, seeing who they target a lot in training camp, that's going to continue. It's going to carry on. Because if they build that trust there, they want to get bailed out by those same guys come real season. But we see, I don't know, the Kumaros dominate preseason and stuff because Aaron Rodgers loves him. It's a vet trying to get somebody he likes. It's not necessarily going to train through, but be careful. Do not go into your dynasty startups or your fantasy redrafts reading the news you just saw at training camp being like, this guy's the next big thing, because they're all the next big thing until they hit that field on Sundays. And that's going to do it for our Dynasty Fantasy Clarity. Let's go ahead and jump into this meat and potatoes. Now, we're going to talk about what you guys are all trying to figure out. How good are these rookies this year compared to some of these vets? We're calling this segment, what are we calling it, Jason?
I think we went with vet value versus rookie fever.
Exactly. And that's the main thing there, because so many vets have value that are getting undermined. They're getting shadowed. They're getting covered with this rookie fever that takes over all of us. It does. It doesn't matter if you're one of those guys that trades away all of your rookie picks the moment you get next year's picks, or you're the guy that holds on to them and tries to hoard them. Every single person gets rookie fever right when their draft starts or right before. So we're going to talk about some rookies that are getting kind of drafted in ADP for startups, a little bit higher than some veterans that we think can provide just as much, if not more value, for 1 to 3 years, which is a real window in Dynasty.
Yeah, I mean, you get a good solid quarterback that you're going to get 3 years out of, that's established, that's got a good repertoire with his team. That's something to look into. Now, it's always nice to have a solid rookie or a solid young player as your QB2 that you're not going to expect to be an immediate impact player your first year of your dynasty. So you want to have that anchor and you want to have that core position, but you also want to taper it off and get some youth value behind it. I mean, not everybody's Tom Brady that's going to be playing for, almost a quarter of their life. So you do want to go with that value, but you also want to taper on the back end some youth behind it. And that's what we're going to be talking about.
So let's go ahead and let's start on with the quarterback position. We're going to go quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. And tight end normally would be a topic I feel like every fantasy dynasty show is going to throw out first because it's not as interesting. However, that's probably like our hottest topic with the guy that's rising the most, and everybody knows who it is. It's the Hall of Fame tight end out of Florida. And we're going to start with that quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields. Based on most ADPs for startups, they're getting drafted 1 and 2 rookies ahead of a lot of vets. And what we have going right after T-Law and kind of getting bookended by Fields is we got guys like Baker Mayfield, Matt Ryan, and Kirk Cousins. I'm going to let you go ahead and lead us off here on why people shouldn't be discrediting some of these veterans and trying to go for these long-term rookies that they can have for the next, 2 to 12 years.
Yeah, and you got to look at this. We're talking fantasy value, not real life value. So fantasy value does come into this. Not saying, that Matt Ryan's a better quarterback or anything, better skill set. We're strictly looking at this fantasy standpoint, and that's important because the Atlanta defense is not great. They don't have a running game. Matt Ryan's going to throw the ball a lot. He's got a shiny new toy. Yes, he lost Julio, but he's got a shiny new toy that, he's getting up there in age. His arm isn't what it used to be. He's going to be targeting that shiny new toy. He's going to be targeting Ripley down the sideline. So you got to look at that. You got to look at teams that are playing from behind, such as Matt Ryan. Now, Baker Mayfield is a good example too. Arguably one of the best offenses in the league, who gets back a premier wide receiver this year, who in OBJ. So you got to factor that in. Now, the outlier here is Cousins. A lot of people don't give Kirk Cousins love. But, he's got a solid possession receiver in Thielen. He's got a burner that can take it to the house at any point in Jefferson. And he's not getting the love that he deserves. He's got Dalvin Cook, who could come out of the backfield. And as soon as he gets in space, he is deadly, taking a screen pass, going against that outside linebacker or linebacker coming across. He has that shiftiness, and he could break. And Kirk Cousins is one of my sneaky quarterbacks that I'd love to take because people sleep on him.
That's true. And we're looking at, and we'll keep talking about these vets, but we're looking at guys that are guaranteed to get you points. Here's the thing. If you went back a couple years ago, we'd be comparing guys like Josh Rosen compared to some of these guys. And when in reality, that'd have been such a shit take to do. That'd be such a terrible way to go. I'm not saying Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields are going to be Josh Rosen. I'm not saying that they're going to be bad quarterbacks. Our thing here is while these shiny new toys are great and all, the toy that you've had for the past 3-4 years works just as well. Like sometimes you don't need to go out and get brand new Jordans. Your shoes will still get you from A to B. Simple as that. And they're going to do it in a comfortable situation. We know Matt Ryan's defense and the Atlanta Falcons, they cannot hold teams down. Like if Matt Ryan drops 35 fantasy points, it's because his defense allowed real life 30 plus points on the other team's offense. So Matt Ryan has to throw 4 or 5 touchdowns, and that's consistency. Kirk Cousins, that defense was terrible last year. And I know I got a lot of crap on TikTok about my prediction for the Minnesota Vikings this year. Because everybody's like, well, we went out and we signed 27 new defensive players that have no chemistry together and have never played in this system before, but they're all going to make us better. Hang on a second. The Philadelphia Eagles did the same thing like 7-8 years ago. Do you remember that when they dropped $500 million, it seemed like, on all these defensive players? And it did nothing because they had no chemistry. This isn't the NBA. You can't just pull all-stars from different places and they're going to work together. Everybody's got to fit in a scheme. It's all got to fall through. Now, the thing that really gets me here is all these guys are different dynamics, where Cousins has a bad defense, Ryan has a bad defense, Mayfield doesn't have a bad defense. But, Jarvis Landry, Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, OBJ, Austin Hooper, weapons. Let's take some time. Let's talk about the rookies. Why is rookie fever taking over for Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields?
Because of the bright, shiny new toy. Trevor Lawrence has been anointed the savior of any NFL team for his freshman year.
Which I believe he is.
I'm not so high on Lawrence as everybody else. I think he's going to be a great quarterback. I don't think he's going to be the next Mark Sanchez. I think he's going to be a good quarterback in NFL. He's got a great head on his shoulder. He's got a nice arm, mobile. I like the kid's athleticism. Do I think he's the second coming of Brady? No. That's lofty expectations to put on anybody. Do I think, in all honesty, I think he's going to be, the Kyler Murray type? Possibly. I think that's a good comparison because once he gets acclimated to the NFL system, I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be a top 5 quarterback year in, year out. And he's going to fluctuate from that 1 to that 5 any given year. You're not going to be – now, Fields is a little bit different. I'm not a Justin Fields believer. Do I think that he has the best opportunities? Yes, because Andy Dalton is a great mentor quarterback. Do I think that he's got anything left? No, except his knowledge. And I think that's where Fields is going to gain the best thing learning under Dalton. I think Fields starts out maybe 4 games in till we see him become a starter. But holding that clipboard is just as valuable as being on the field sometimes.
We do have to remember is that Justin Fields has the better receiver. I'm not saying weapons, but he has Allen Robinson. He's a top 10 receiver right there. And everybody, yes, he's old. He has Jimmy Graham, who is a red zone hog. He is. Like, no matter, even if people say he's old, he's still a red zone threat. He's a safety valve. He has a reliable run game as well with a decent offensive line and a defense that can kind of hold people a little bit. Like, Chicago's defense isn't like top 5. However, they're going to hold teams to 20 and less more than Jacksonville's defense will. So he's not going to have to do as much.
And you got Commit there too, young tight end too, that's going to be learning, who's got great hands that we just haven't got to see because of the debacle last year. I mean, anybody that trusts Mr. Trubisky is as your QB, starting QB, and think you're going to win games, you need to have some evaluation or drug tests at your job. But yeah, I mean, do I think Lawrence or Fields are bad quarterbacks? No. But do I think that you can get that same value out of a veteran later in your drafts? Yes.
I mean, essentially, we're sitting here. Let's talk about Superflex. Let's say you're in your rookie draft Superflex. Trevor Lawrence is the obvious 1 to 95% of rookie drafts, probably 99. And Justin Fields probably goes somewhere between 2 and 4, depending on who's in your league. There are guys in your league that follow the NFL draft, and Zach Wilson will go 2. You'll have guys that study and, Trey Lance will go there, or just Fields. But either way, you could easily trade down in those drafts, gain a pick at like 1-5, 1-6, plus gain a Mayfield, Ryan, or Cousins type of guy just for Trevor Lawrence. And then you could come away with a Javonte Williams, an ETN, I don't know, Jamar Chase, plus these quarterbacks. And here's the problem. Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields, if they break out and they're top-tier quarterbacks, then you win. But if they are what most quarterbacks are, and that is Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield, Matt Ryan, guys that will finish anywhere from 8 to 18 and only be separated by like 30 points, then you're not getting true value. And that's where the veteran value comes in, especially this quarterback position. If it's single quarterback, you could easily trade your 1.10 or 1 to 110, which is where Lawrence is going-ish, for any of these quarterbacks plus a lot. And so that's the thing right there. You have to just be careful getting caught with this rookie fever. I know these guys are great. I love Trey Lance. I like Justin Fields. I like Trevor Lawrence. I like all these guys. But give me the veteran plus for these rookie quarterbacks. Now, go ahead. Last thing. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and, this goes back to our top of the show. This is where you get that value and you can make those moves for the owner that has Wentz. I mean, this is a perfect example where you can play your league mates to get even more value and get rookie pack, because not a lot of people have done rookie drafts yet. I know a couple of my leagues are still waiting. But, you got that value. You got that cushion. So use this advice to your advantage, please.
Now let's talk about the next set. We're going to go to running back, and we're not going to do what everybody else thinks. We're not going to talk about Najee, Najee Harris and how he's a top tier guy. We're not going to talk about Travis Etienne and Javonte Williams. We almost did, but we're not. We're going to talk about Michael Carter Jr., who is skyrocketing up, startups, and he's getting taken in the first round of rookie drafts, if not the top of the second round. And people are saying, well, the New York Jets have nobody, so he must be a somebody. And now that's not wrong. He could be a somebody in a crowd of nobodies, but that doesn't make him a true somebody. And now guys that are getting drafted after him are veterans such as David Johnson and Damian Harris. Damian Harris and David Johnson are the exact same running back for me in terms of dynasty value. They're both in slightly crowded running back rooms. where I think they are the most talented guy in that room, and their coaches just have to be smart and give them the ball. But you can't tell me those two potentially won't outscore Michael Carter Jr., who's, I'm sorry, Jets fans, he's a goddamn Jets running back. Like,
paper expectations.
This isn't Thomas Jones. I'm sorry. Like,
Is Tomlinson coming over to the Jets again? So yeah, I mean, this is an interesting one for me because I've seen him go as high as 1.6 to 2.2. So I mean, he's got exactly that rookie fever. It's, oh well, he's a running back. That's the only thing they got, like you said. But it's the Jets. It's a tough division. It's and you know, everybody's talking about Harris and everything. Oh, it's a New England Patriots running back. You don't know who they're going to play. There's a reason for that, because if you notice who you see in the first half of the season for the Patriots getting used a lot of volume, about that midseason mark, somebody else takes over that volume and that one tapers off because Belichick knows how to keep running backs fresh. I mean, you've talked about this before. You know how to plan for an RB1, an RB2. Belichick makes you plan for 3, 4, and 5. He's got so many weapons at his disposal that has different running styles. I love the Harris pick because a lot of people sleep on him because of the crowded backfield. David Johnson was a hell of a running back when he was in Arizona. A wrist injury kind of sidelined him, and then people started like putting him off and like his value drops. I'm buying low on him. I mean, because he still has value, and I'm going to take him over somebody like a Jets running back, because just because you get the volume doesn't mean you're going to produce.
And we see guys like this every year in rookie drafts that are highly touted because, I don't know, it's rookie fever. Like, people are like, oh man, I can get this guy in a second round pick. I'm sorry, I don't know a single league where you could turn around and you could trade the 2-1 for David Johnson, and the guy with 2-1 would be like, yeah, please. And not a single league. Nobody would do that. But that's where Michael Carter is getting drafted at the back end, let alone a mid to late first round pick. You could not sell David Johnson for that at all. Damian Harris, probably not either, unless you get a diehard Patriots fan. Now, here's the thing. These running back rooms are going to fade themselves. I believe Damian Harris is one of the most talented running backs that Belichick has had in a very long time. I think he's a guy that can be healthy and he can be versatile inside that backfield, and he can work with somebody. I mean, Cam Newton is an issue because he's going to steal touchdowns. But again, we're talking dynasty here. Cam Newton is at max a 17-game guy for New England. That's it. As soon as Mac Jones is there, Damian Harris is going to skyrocket. And everybody's going to regret taking somebody like Michael Carter Jr. over him in their startups. David Johnson, on the other hand, is an older guy that you can get for a third-round pick potentially. Maybe, 212 comes around, and you can flip it because you don't want to be drafting, the fifth-string receiver somewhere, and you can get value instantly. I know this seems maybe narrow-minded, and it's not really a true idea of like, oh, I'm going to start a dynasty startup, and our league's going to run for 20-plus years. That sounds great. But in my experience, I see more leagues fold than make it past the 5-year mark. Plain and simple. And more than likely, you're going to be in a league for 3 years, and then something shitty's going to happen, and it's going to cancel. The commissioner's going to get overwhelmed. Something's going to happen. Those of you that are in long-term leagues, good on you. But realistically, you're in a 1 to 3 year window to win. Win now while you have an opportunity, and that's what these bets do.
And it's only, and people like sleep on Harris like he's an old running back. He's 24 years old. He's in that peak performance. We're talking about Carter, who is getting ready to turn 23. So there is literally less than 18 months separating them, and you're talking about value. So, and what, Harris has been in the league 3 years, 2 years. He's got 2 years.
This will be 3.
Yeah, this will be his third year. So he's got 2 years under his belt. You're looking at a dynasty. You got that window of opportunity there. You got an established offense that he's familiar with versus a rookie that's got to come in and acclimate to the NFL style from college. That is important. And we're going to talk about that a lot more when we get to the wide receiver position.
Well, we're already there. Transition. We're good. Let's talk about it. Our comparison here that we're talking about on ADP guys that are getting drafted. And if you missed how we kind of, decipher ADP and best player available and everything, we talked about it on our last episode. Go ahead and check back on that episode right after this one, where we kind of, help you guys get some clarity on those things, such as ADP. We're going to talk about Philadelphia Eagles wide receiver, the defending, undisputed Heisman champion. Okay, it's disputed. It's a little disputed, but DeVonta Smith, who is going to a place where he is going to be looked at as the number one guy. But he's getting drafted ahead of guys like veterans like DJ Chark, Cortland Sutton, and Tyler Boyd. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, Tyler Boyd is like Mr. Reliable. He's like Mr. Wide Receiver 2 in the NFL. That's consistency. And DeVonta Smith in rookie drafts getting drafted anywhere from, depending on the Superflex or one quarterback, but from anywhere from like 5 to 10 in that range. And all three of those receivers could easily be had for those picks plus. But go ahead, let's talk about this switcheroo.
Yeah, and this is what's funny because as a Giants fan, I'm not going to give Eagles any love anyway. But Jalen Hurts is not an answer at your quarterback. I'm sorry, he is not. And if you think he is, I've got oceanfront property in Arizona to sell you. I think that they need to bring somebody in that can do. So you also have to, wide receivers, you have to taper their value to your quarterback. If you think Jalen Hurts is that guy, yeah, go for it. Great. Tyler Boyd's an interesting one because I think that he is one receiver, especially now with them drafting Chase, is going to be shadowed, and people's not going to see his value. And this is where I think that, they talk about, oh, he has chemistry. Burrow has chemistry with him. Chemistry in college versus chemistry in the NFL, totally different outlook. So, I mean, you could have all the chemistry. Is it good? Yes. Do you know how? Because you know how the receiver likes the ball, the ball placement and everything. But do you actually think that that's going to transition like directly? No, there's going to be a learning curve. You got a lot of people. Also, Boyd has unreal speed when he gets the ball. He has that elusiveness. He has that cutting ability, and he can flat out, once he catches the ball, he can flat out win in a foot race. Not saying Smith can't, but I'm going to go with the sure thing, what I've seen produced, than the iffy thing. And that's what our main meat and potatoes of the show is. And we talk about Chark. Chark is one of the most reliable receivers that you can get, and you can get him very late because people have no faith in the Jags offense. And this goes back. You want guys to produce, but those guys that get those garbage time points can win you championships.
Yeah, and I think the issue that we have here is that DeVonta Smith is a man among children, essentially, because the Philadelphia Eagles wide receiving room is depleted. I mean, sure, Jalen Reagor's there, who is supposed to be something, and he still could be. I'm not saying he's not. I don't like to jump too soon. Travis Fulham looked great for a little bit, but then he kind of got faded out and was getting less snaps towards the end of the season too, which doesn't make any sense. They have a plethora of running backs there as well, who all could run the ball. I mean, they literally have their running back room is like the Chicago Bears tight end room. It's crazy. And then they still have Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert on the roster as well, who I feel like are more likely to be taking targets away from the receivers than the receivers are taking away from them. And now we get a guy like Cortland Sutton, who I think I understand if you could make a case for like DeVonta Smith going over Chark and Boyd, because Chark and Boyd are, they're in these heavy wide receiver rooms where Chark's got to deal with Marvin Jones and Laviska Shenault and two good running backs as well in Jacksonville. And Boyd's got, a good running back there in Mixon, plus Chase and Higgins taken away as well. Okay, I get that. But Cortland Sutton, all he has to compete with really is,
Judy.
Judy. But Judy was drop city last year. Sure, he'll probably fix that. Noah Fant, yeah, but I don't see Font taking targets from him. I don't see the running backs taking a lot of targets. For me, Chark, Sutton, and Boyd, if they play 14 games, they are the easiest 1,000-yard receivers that I have in the wide receiver 2 to 3 area that they could catch 60 balls, and I think they can get 1,000 yards. I'm not worried about it. And they're each going to get 5 to 8 touchdowns, and you're going to get the consistency. Everybody wants that all-star wide receiver. And I get it. Yes, having studs on your team makes playing Dynasty and Fantasy easy because you don't have to – it's like one less position you got to sub out every week. But wide receiver 2s and 3s win you leagues. Simple as that.
Yes, and that's what people don't realize. And they don't look at the Dynasty value. Everything – a lot of my leagues we go in, especially the league me and you are in together, a few of our owners look at everything as a redraft league rather than a dynasty league, and they want to, and their values are unreal. And I love Courtland Sutton. Yes, he's coming back from a severe injury, but I like him because who else is going to catch the ball there? You had production last year in that offense. It was a mess. I think Bridgewater is an upgrade over Locke. We'll see how that quarterback shakes out, but Bridgewater's definitely an upgrade. He can definitely get the ball to his receivers.
You're right. I'm going to jump in real quick because you brought up a point, and it reminded me of this, and if I don't jump in, I'm going to forget. But last year, Teddy Bridgewater produced 2 wide receiver 2s and a wide receiver 3 with DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, and Curtis Samuel. Now he comes here where he gets Courtland Sutton and Judy, and the third receiver isn't there. They don't have that talent that Carolina had at receiver for the third option. So Sutton and Judy might get even more touches than Moore and Anderson did.
Yeah, and like I said, you got to taper that. You got to merge that with your receivers, your quarterback too, because you could have a horrible quarterback and an elite wide receiver. Trust me, I'm a Giants fan. Hide Danny Dimes. And your receiver value is going to drop because of your quarterback value. Sure. And you need to look at that. An upgrade with Bridgewater is going to get Sutton. I predict about 1,300 yards per Sutton baseline and about 6-7 touchdowns. I think that's a solid prediction to expect. And you got to also look at that division. You got the Chiefs, who's got a great defense that is slept on. You have the Raiders. You have the Chargers. There's very good possibility Denver is the worst team in that division. They're going to be playing from behind. Garbage time points are going to be factors.
And that right there, here's the thing. Garbage time points are gold in fantasy and dynasty. I love garbage time points. I don't give a shit. Give them to me. Give them to me. They're perfect. But I think we've kind of established this in the receiver. Let's get to our main event. Let's get to the championship fight. Let's talk about the already Hall of Famer Kyle Pitts. This guy was playing with, I keep saying this, but I call him Kyle Trash because I don't think Kyle Trask was a good quarterback in college. That's personally me. I don't think he's that accurate. I remember watching that bowl game. He looked horrible. But Kyle Pitts comes to Atlanta where he essentially is going to be looked at as replacing Julio Jones, which realistically, that's an issue because what's the window for tight ends? It's 3 years to establish themselves, right? And roughly. Some guys can do it faster, but the fact that he's getting looked at, like if Julio Jones was there, I would love Kyle Pitts even more because there's less coverage on him. There's less doubles, but Julio was taking 2 guys all the time. Kyle Pitts is getting drafted ahead of guys like Mark Andrews, who is Lamar Jackson's favorite target in Baltimore, and TJ Hockenson, who is right now Jared Goff's only real receiving option, in my eyes, in Detroit.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's got this hype for Pitts. Do I think he's going to be good? Yes. Do I think he's going to be the second coming of Gonzalez in Atlanta? Hell no. Do I think that he's going to be the second coming of, Greg Olsen, who's had a longevity of the career? Maybe. But do I think that he's going to be a good receiver in that offense? Yes. Do I just like you said, would I love him more if Julio was there? Yes. I would justify this, him being the fourth tight end off the board 10 out of 10 times. Julio goes, you slide that expectation down, because now teams don't have to defend and game plan against two elite receivers and try to cover the tight end. Now they can cover that short game as well as down the field. Ryan doesn't have the arm that he used to. We've talked about this before in our quarterback segment. But so he's going to be throwing the short passes. So teams are going to game plan against that, and that's going to take a hit on his productivity.
Now, the weird situation about this is because we both agree that Kyle Pitts is going to be good. We both like Kyle Pitts. The issue that we have is that Kyle Pitts is getting taken ahead of one legit established veteran in Mark Andrews, and one guy that has just as much upside, in my opinion, TJ Hockenson, as Kyle Pitts. Because the thing that Kyle Pitts doesn't do that TJ Hockenson does, this is my opinion, is he's not as good as a blocker. Like, I can look at TJ Hockenson and I can go, that guy can be on the field like Greg Olsen. He can be on there for 100% of offensive snaps because he can block, he can catch. And that's reliable because just in case they call an audible, he's already there. Kyle Pitts isn't that guy, and that's an issue for me.
And you also got to think, Hockenson's, he's still learning. He's still growing. He's still acclimating. He's got that learning curve. And if you think about it, Jared Goff loves his tight ends. Look at Higbee. Look at Everett. Last year, he spread the ball to his tight ends a lot, especially in the red zone. So I think that is going to shoot that ADP of Hockenson's up a little bit, and that's why he's where he's at, is because of the fact that Jared Goff loves his tight ends and loves throwing to him, and the fact that they don't have anybody else on the field to throw to.
And I'm not saying don't draft Kyle Pitts in your rookie draft. Like some of these other guys, I'm like, yeah, trade away this pick for all this value. Draft Kyle Pitts. Draft him. But you could flip him before the season starts. Kyle Pitts could be terrible in the NFL. He could be the biggest bust, and all of us are gonna look like fools. Not just me and you, but everybody is gonna look like fools. All 100% of analysts and everything. So there's no single person that hates Kyle Pitts, if we're being honest. But draft him and trade him for Mark Andrews plus, because you can do it. And Mark Andrews is gonna get you reliability. He's gonna get you veteran value. And that's all we're looking for. That's all we're asking for, and that's all we want. And that's going to do it for us here on 2nd&Short's Fantasy Dynasty episode of the Cheap Seats. This veteran value versus rookie fever, I like this, and it's going to be a recurring segment that we're going to bring back in future. Maybe we'll talk about some other rookies, some guys that are closer, some top tier guys. But realistically, if you're going to leave with anything here, is trust your gut, take your guy, but don't fall for this fever. If you catch a fever, just go take some medicine. Take a second, talk to your league mates, and medicine for me is trade offers. And talk to your league mates and get that true value.
Or be even better. Send me a DM on Twitter at Teasley822, and I will talk you off the ledge. I will help you. I'm a former EMT. I know how to deal with fevers. I could definitely help you out, because sometimes we all get caught up in it, and it can wreck a team, or you could blossom it into veteran value and then some.
And go ahead and hit that subscribe down below. Hit that subscribe button down below. I said it there for a second. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, give us a follow. You can see it down below also if you're watching this as well. We're on TikTok at 2nd&Short, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, 2nd&Short, everything. And there's hot takes on TikTok. There's little clips there. On Twitter, we have questions. Hit us up there as well. We will share just like Jason will. And that's it. So thank you guys for listening. We'll check you guys next week.